This episode basically proved the old adage, if you're gonna come at the king, you best not miss. Hello interwebs, and welcome to my review of Part 5, the penultimate episode of Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am so excited to be talking about this one, and again, you're getting just my wonderful dulcet tones on this channel because I am still recovering from surgery, and thankfully I don't have the big head wrap on that I had on for most of this past week, but my face is still swollen bigger than a giant puffer fish, so you're not getting my face because I need to protect some of my vanity. So allow me to be vain for just a few videos more, but that being said, I am excited to be talking about this episode, and right up front, I will give my quick thoughts for Part 4 because I wasn't able to review it last week because it literally premiered the day of my surgery, and I love y'all, I adore ya. I am not, I was in no way cogent enough to talk about the episode, but I did get to watch it and did enjoy it. So, quick thoughts on that episode, and then we'll get into Part 5 because, oh boy, I'm very excited to talk about Part 5. But Part 4 thoughts really quickly. I loved seeing the Fortress Inquisitorius. It's still the dumbest named thing ever, but it was cool to see it in live action after having already seen it in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I love that game, and I loved that level in the game. If you know, you know. Beyond that, the rest of the episode was a fairly bog-standard sort of escape from prison scenario, like someone going in and getting out, but there were a few hints of things within that I did really enjoy. I loved seeing Obi-Wan starting to find and get his groove back, as it were. Like the scene where there was just a complete darkness and then the lightsaber lit up and then he killed the one guard and then killed the other one after going back to complete darkness was so badass. Like we need more scenes of this in Star Wars where people use the light of the lightsaber to great effect. It's just such a great visual, and one that I'm honestly shocked that we haven't seen used as well as this beforehand. So great job there. No one really talked about it in a lot of the reviews that I saw, but I love seeing Obi-Wan like trying to hold back the water coming in, and it's sort of being indicative of him sort of getting his connection back to the Force because he was able to do something so cool like that. That was great. And I also really loved the scenes with Tala and the third sister where Tala's like, I'm lying, but I'm lying for you. And the third sister's like, I know you're lying, but I don't know if you're lying for me. So that was all really good, and I liked that back and forth. The third sister scenes with Leia I thought were I was more mixed on. Leia was still fantastic. I loved her being like, oh, is this a staring contest? But then when the third sister sort of let go, you could see that it was having an effect on her, and so that Leia was able to keep her composure even at that young age, even while under Force stress. That was really cool. But the rest of it was sort of like, and the revelation that the third sister had placed a tracker on the device seemed a little bit easy to me, because I get that she probably would have a secondary plan in place, but it didn't really seem to me like she let them go, because it would have relied on her knowing that Obi-Wan was going to be able to get there, find them, break in, and all this stuff. It just seemed a little bit too neat and tidy in terms of storytelling beats. That was sort of my one major negative, but while the episode was mostly standard, it did execute it really well, so I did enjoy it overall. That being said, you didn't come here for last week's episode. Let's talk about Part 5, because Part 5 fares way better. This was a really wonderful episode. I have a few things that I have issues with here and there, but first up, right up front, Hayden Christensen. Yes, he has been performing Darth Vader, and we got some looks at him here and there throughout this season so far, but we finally got him full and back in a really wonderful kind of a framing device story where Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting off before the prequels, and I like that we keep coming back to it and sort of like showing how Obi-Wan knows and understands Anakin by being his master. It was just a really wonderful conceit and very clever. The one problem that I guess I have, and it's not really a problem, I don't really have an issue with this, but Hayden Christensen definitely looked older than he did in the prequels. Honestly, I kind of prefer that rather than like de-aging him like Disney is wont to do a lot of the time. I honestly really dislike the sort of de-aging technology that a lot of like big companies, especially Disney with Marvel and Star Wars stuff here and there, is doing a lot of the time, because I find it kind of creepy and off-putting and throws me out of the scene. I'd rather you just cast the actor unless they look wildly different, unless the scene is very short. So I actually really preferred that they actually went with Hayden Christensen as he looks now for this scene rather than trying to de-age him digitally. So liked that. Then we got Darth Vader going to Jabim with the third sister, and the third sister becoming the Grand Inquisitor, which was kind of interesting right up front. And I did like that we can very much tell that Darth Vader is just dead set on, like, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to go after Obi-Wan. I am going to just get my revenge, and it's just all eyes on him. I liked that sort of dead set focus that he had, that you could get just through the small lines that we got with him. Now, this setup with Obi-Wan on Jabim and the Empire and Darth Vader coming to get everyone felt actually very reminiscent to me of the Hoth scenario from Episode 5. So I was like, oh, that's a nice little subtle homage to that. I kind of like that. It's like a poetry. It rhymes, you know, as we all know in Star Wars. I did like that Hajo was back. It was nice to see Kumail Nanjiani. I wish he had something to do. He doesn't really do anything other than be there, but it was nice to see his face. I do like Kumail Nanjiani's face, so I guess that was fine. It was a little bit unfortunate they didn't get to do anything, though. But also, from there, I do like that Obi-Wan gives a speech to everyone at the Jabim facility saying, like, we don't need to survive this, we don't need to win, we just need to hold out and get everyone out of here. I thought that that was clever, and I liked seeing Obi-Wan being able to take that inspiration leadership position again. It showed, again, his character arc and growth through this past 2 episodes, so I did really enjoy seeing that. I also did really like Obi-Wan's scene with the officer lady, Tala, her talking about how she had to give up Force-sensitive kids to the Empire and how she started paying atonement for that. That was a nice sort of reminiscence of why she was doing this. I liked that. But then the standout parts of the episode were Obi-Wan and the Inquisitor talking several times throughout the episode. When Obi-Wan went and talked to her once the siege began, I did really enjoy that he figured out that she was one of the younglings at the temple during the execution of Order 66, and we returned to that scene from the prequels, the infamous scene where Anakin's going around killing younglings, and we actually see the sheer terror of it in that moment from her point of view. Really, really well done. Not particularly surprising. A lot of us had guessed that that was going to be the case with her, that was going to be her backstory. But it still was very visceral when it did come out, and I did really like the reveal, because I was wondering, it's like, why was she upset at Obi-Wan when Anakin was clearly the one that killed the younglings? And I like the reveal that she's actually been after Anakin this entire time. It feels, not only does it feel right for her character, it also kind of fits the Sith, right? She is a Sith worker, even if she doesn't necessarily think of herself that way. Maybe she thinks of herself like, I'm undercover, but she is so blinded by revenge, and Sith are all about revenge. That's kind of their thing. So I did like that was still drawing dark side power from her in that whole idea, even though she was working to get after Anakin, that sort of twist reveal. It really worked for me, and I liked that Obi-Wan played off of that later on in the episode. But then the siege started going, and I thought it was fine. I wasn't particularly like overjoyed or like, oh, this was so cool in a lot of these moments. We did get Tala'S death, which was a tad melodramatic. I think the show thought I cared more for her character than I actually did care for her character. They were trying to go for that Rogue One ending, which I have my issues with Rogue One, but I still really love it, and it really made you care for all those characters' deaths when they came. Here, though, it just felt overdramatic. I was like, all right, yeah, she's dead. Cool. Fine. But the episode really wanted me to feel like I should care a lot more than I think I ended up doing. But I also did like that Obi-Wan did surrender himself. He tries to use the third sister's anger against her. Says, you're not bringing him to me. I'm bringing him to you. Are you going to let him do this again? Are you going to let him slaughter kids? I thought that was a really clever move by Obi-Wan, and probably the only move that he had to play. And I like that she sort of says, well, how do you know that he won't see me coming? Says, because all he'll see is me. Again, makes perfect sense. Thought that was brilliant, and I loved seeing Obi-Wan's confidence. The confusing part here for me was the way that this was cut, because I thought that he had given himself up so that they could face him together, but she sort of shoves him away and pushes him back inside the facility, and then the next time we see him, he's just running through the facility, and I'm like, oh, I guess he got away, which it was just sort of weirdly cut and unclear, and it wasn't really decisively stated what the plan was, so I was just kind of a bit confused by the way they shot and edited that, so that was a bit of a disappointment there. But I did like that, again, going back to the Anakin-Obi-Wan fight that's sort of been framing this entire episode. My favorite moment came here, where you have this bit where he says, your need for victory, it blinds you. Like, again, going to how Obi-Wan knows Anakin and is able to understand his tactics because of his memory of him as a Padawan. Great job there. Oh, I also forgot to mention during all of this, Leia was doing stuff. Cool. I mean, I've liked Leia throughout this series, but at this point, she just feels almost superfluous to the stuff that we actually care about. Just get her back to Alderaan, we're done. But that does lead me to the standout scene of the episode, with Vader just coming in, grabbing the ship that was escaping out of the air and just dragging it down and ripping it apart. and then Obi-Wan having known that that was going to be the case and getting a second ship and flying away. How Vader missed the second ship was blocked a little bit weird, but I thought that was just so clever, but also so cool. And again, it just fits Darth Vader. It shows how badass and awesome he is, but also shows his weaknesses and how Obi-Wan exploits them. Great job. But then the best scene came when the third sister, again, trying to come at the king, and she missed her shot because Darth Vader just tore her apart. I love that she's just going at him with two sabers, essentially, and he's just like not even caring, just using the Force to destroy her. And I thought it just showed how powerful Vader really is, and it was just so cool, and him disarming her and them fighting and her just losing that fight. And then the reveal that the Grand Inquisitor was alive, which a lot of you out there in the audience called, because the Grand Inquisitor was still alive during the time of Star Wars Rebels, so it wouldn't have made sense that if he had actually died earlier on in this season. I didn't catch that initially, other than when people commented on it, because I was unclear of when Rebels was set in the timeline compared to Obi-Wan. I didn't necessarily know where exactly it fit. I just knew that they were both in between episodes 3 and 4. So it makes sense to me, and I love this twist, and I love how it just puts her right on the back end. I am surprised that they didn't just straight up murder her, like Darth Vader didn't snap her neck or something like that, because it does lead to the end bit of the episode where she has the little disc of Bail Organa that Obi-Wan was looking at early on in the episode, so now she knows about Luke, and Luke is in danger. I thought that was a little bit forced, and kind of trying to get things to have some sort of strong heart pulled back to the Skywalker saga in that way, and bring justification for Luke to be pulled into the storyline. Didn't really like that. I honestly think it would have worked for me if the third sister had just died there. Not that I don't like her character, but I think that would have been a fine end to her arc, and this just unnecessarily prolongs things with a sort of MacGuffin, like an anti-MacGuffin sort of plot thread here, and I just did not I didn't enjoy it, to be honest. It was kind of a dead note to end the episode on, to sort of like, oh, look, Luke's in danger. But beyond that, though, everything else here was solid. Everything with Darth Vader, everything with Obi-Wan and the third sisters sort of back and forth, and them sort of playing off of each other's histories and backstories and knowledge of each other was so wonderful. A really solid episode of the show that had me very excited, and has me very excited going into the finale. So that's my thoughts on Part 4 and Part 5 of Obi-Wan. I am going to now go watch Ms. Marvel and review that, and then go to bed. I hope you are all enjoying these reviews. Again, sorry you're not seeing my beautiful face, but it's not so beautiful at the moment anyways. So I love you all, and I will see you on the Ms. Marvel review. But until then, live long and prosper, my friends.